questions just to see how you're engaging. Which of the following could be classified as interventionist policy? Supply side policy, sorry. Now, what is a supply side policy? The policies that governments implement are those that are demand side and supply side. Supply side policies usually target productivity growth, expansion of the capacity. Any policy, any instrument that affects productivity usually is called supply side policy. So this could be government's involvement in the infrastructure expansion, construction of roads, or so more roads means greater flexibility, then movement will be faster and then growth expands, production expands, for example, yeah? Or grants for investment, for example. These are all supply side policies. Even the privatization is also supply side policy because it's a deregulation. But then question here is, which one is interventionist supply side policy? There are two types of supply side policies. Pro-market, like conservative governments are usually pro-market people. They usually implement pro-market supply side policies. Labor is usually interventionist. They usually like nationalizing. They like intervening in the economy. So now you know the difference, right? Yeah, go ahead.
So we say interventionist, more government intervening.
Exactly.
And the other one, which was
independent. Markets function independently.
That was to the private sector.
It's more about stimulating private investment rather than government G. So they try to push the I instead of G. For the pro-market supply side policies, it's the I that's their target in the aggregate demand. Makes sense, guys? Okay. Now, government provision of infrastructure. Yes. If it's supplying the infrastructure, the roads, the grid, it basically electricity is generated by the government and sold to the public is supply side policy. Intervention is supply side policy. It's greater role of government. Now privatization, however, reduces government's role. Yes. National rail, if privatized, then government will have no say about it, and then all the rail operators will be responsible for running it. BT once was a government company, now it's private. Well, it's public, it is sold in shares, are sold in. BP was, I think, no, BP wasn't. Post office was. They privatized, now it's in the private hands and prices are going up now. Once it was in the nationalized public hands, government had, it was a different story. This cheaper service was provided. Royal Mail. Royal Mail, yeah, post office, yeah. They have post office. Royal Mail runs post office. So that's a good point. I didn't realize that. I simply call the post office, it's Royal Mail, yeah. It's the owner of the post office is Royal Mail, yeah. Okay, so that once you prioritize, you have less intervention in the economy. So that's no here. It's not interventionist policy. Now, see, investment grants for private firms. Is this interventionist? What do you think? Well, it's a grant. You just give it to people. You're intervening in the economy. Instead, the private firm should apply for loans from banks. Yeah? But then government says, okay, I'm going to give you a grant. It's like government is playing a role and not reclaiming it back. This money could have been spent somewhere else, for example, NHS or somewhere else. Yeah? Okay. D, a reduction in corporation tax. It's not interventionist policy. It's pro-market. It stimulates independent market economy, market activity, more of an investment. For example, increases in this case.
So is C yes or no?
Yes. C is yes. D is no. And E is
yes.
Clear. Yes, it's government-funded workplace training schemes. So this is yes. Only B and D are no. Number 4. What effect will successful supply-side measures have on the following curves? First one is the production possibilities curve. Does anyone want to explain this? It's an easy one.
Outward. Is it outward shift?
Exactly, it's outward shift. Yes. Why? Yes, you're right. Go ahead.
The means that successful supply side, which means you're expanding your productivity, right?
Yes. So if we had
That's why it's going out.
good Y and good X, and this is our production possibilities curve. Along this curve, the government operates more efficiently because at this point, if they produce this at this point, then they have X units and Y units of the product. But can they operate here? No, they don't have resources. Can they operate here? Yes, they are able to, but they're inefficient because they are not utilizing all the labor, capital, and others. So to go to this point, what do they need to do? Implement supply-side policies which expands their capacity. So then outward shift will happen, and if successful, that shift will cover new production possibilities curve will cover that point too, right? So this could be government investment, this could be education, more investment into education, tax cuts, all other bits that are much more fiscal in nature, yeah? Can shift the production possibilities curve. They can produce more now, their capacity increased. Okay, B. The aggregate supply curve. What happens to aggregate supply curve? To the right, exactly. Aggregate supply curve shifts to the right. That's because, again, supply side policies improve productivity. We may have extra capital or labor. Maybe we have immigration policy, that's also supply side policy, which means we issue more visas for high-skilled jobs, and once these skilled immigrants come to the country, they produce more, we produce more, yeah? There's a right shift to this side. Our full employment output level is now greater than the original full employment output level here. Yeah, this is shifting to the right. The aggregate demand curve, right shift, left shift, or movement up along. Okay, what happens to this one now? This is our aggregate demand. What happens to aggregate demand curve if there is a supply side policy? And remember, go ahead.
Goes to left.
Did you do anything wrong? Did your contractionary policies would make it go left? Remember? Yeah, go ahead. Along the curve. Yes, that's true. There will be movement along the curve. That's because only supply side policy, so supply shifts only, remember? So there will be movement along the curve from this point to this point, yeah? Because supply side policies change the aggregate supply. So from there to there means movement along the curve. AD is intact. AD is not changing. Remember, we are not stimulating consumption in this case. We are improving our capacity. We are investing into productivity. So obviously next round will have demand shifting effect, of course. Inflation will then start rising. What happens to Phillips curve? When your supply side policies increase output. Did you watch the video on QM+? What happens to Phillips curve when aggregate supply changes? Or shifts, in other words. This is your Phillips curve. It shifts to the left. For at a given interest rate, we have less unemployment because we're employing more resources now, yeah? Supply side policy means we're employing more resources to produce more. So there will be a leftward shift. So at a given inflation I or J, we have less unemployment. Yeah, unemployment decreases. And remember, this is unemployment here, and this is inflation here. And how about withdrawal and injections curves? What happens to them? These are part of demand, aggregate demand, so nothing changes. No withdrawals, no injections change. There is no shift there. You could say, oh, how about, let's say, injections may change because the investment increase, yeah? Because if you give tax cuts on research and development, or incentives for research and development, for example, then obviously in the end, firms to take advantage of these incentives invest. So I should increase. We call this a side effect usually, not the direct result of the supply side policy. So investment will increase, but that will be supply side side effect. So this doesn't change, and that doesn't change too. These two do not change. Keep that in mind, yeah? When supply side policies are implemented, demand side policies are usually independent of them. Or demand instruments, aggregate demand affecting instruments are usually not changing. Okay. Last one. The full employment level of income in the 45-degree line. What happens?
Right.
Yes, it's a right shift because we are improving capacity. We are increasing our capacity. It's a right shift. Number 4 is done. Now it's number 3, isn't it? Yeah, number 3. Okay. Which of the following measures to cure employment would you call supply side, and which demand side and which are both? Okay. So we are targeting unemployment. Some of the instruments we are using to target unemployment, to reduce unemployment, are supply side, and some of them are demand side solutions. A.
Supply.
Why is it demand?
Because it's still
What does it say here? The encouragement of pay restraint to keep costs down. So they're trying to reduce the production costs. Wage is cost of product, so it must be supply side then. B. The launch of a new government training program for school leavers.
supply.
Why?
Because they are providing like new knowledge to people, so it is for production, like produce more, like more efficient.
More knowledgeable, more trained, more efficient maybe. So in the end we have more human capital, higher human capital. We are more trained. Compare a country with only high school educated people and with university educated people, trained people. Who is more efficient? Who can innovate more? Obviously the one who have highest education, right? They have better knowledge. So they have human capital is high. So it's a supply side. It creates capacity. Extra capacity. Okay. A new computer network is set up to provide more detailed national information at job centers on vacancies.
Supply, supply.
Why is it so?
Supply. Because you supply
people with a network of computers that can provide information about jobs and vacancies.
So we now will be better informed,
Yes.
and we can offer our skills and add to the labor force. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if if you're looking for job, then we will be more informed, better informed with a better network,
Networks.
and then we're able to get jobs.
jobs.
That increases our production eventually. Yeah, that's a good reasoning. So that's what we need in the exam, in the essay.
Just say that you have a more network, a better network that can supply information to people, so more people can get involved.
Get into labor force. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, labor force. So if anyone doesn't know there is job exists, then obviously we are just receiving benefits and sitting here at home. But if we know there are jobs that we can do, then we can be part of the labor force, and we can increase the capacity of the economy. Yeah. Okay, and D. A government investment program targeted on key growth industries. Okay, explain. Why is it demand side policy?
Because basically your investment increases, so your aggregate demand increases.
Oh yeah, because there is a government in what do you call it? Government invests means that investment goes onto companies' pockets that will stimulate further purchase of raw materials, which is affecting the other industries basically, right, in this process. So it creates demand. But at the same time, it's creating a potential expansion of output. Yeah, so it's both. Yeah, it can be both. This policy can be both eventually because it has two-edged sort of effect here. What do you call it? Two-pronged approach to, or maybe with one stone we're hitting two hairs kind of thing, rather than I'm doing a wrong explanation here, basically wrong analogy. So first thing is investment usually pushes up, creates jobs elsewhere, and this created jobs will basically pay salaries. The salaries go into consumption. Part of it will go to savings, but the consumption part is stimulating the demand, and the investment, since it's a growth industry, will most likely be spent on capital equipment purchases, computers maybe, buildings maybe, and things like this. So this creates the demand, and at the same time we have better, we expanded our potential because we now have a better equipment which can produce more efficiently. Yeah, it's both at the same time here. Could be a reduction of costs as well is a possibility. So that's again supply side policy, but at the same time demand side. Now E, income tax is cut by 2p in the pound. What does it imply? Yes, both, by the way, yeah. Because if my income is reduced, I'll consume more. At the same time, I'll work more now. Yeah, because I'm receiving more tax after tax income. So my labor is offered more. I mean, myself is a case. I was thinking today if I should take extra work next time or not, because I've already reached the limit for the next tax bracket, which is higher. Any income I earn more now will be taxed at a higher bracket, because I've already worked so much in the past tax year. 5th of April is basically end of tax year. And when I looked back, I am paying huge tax above the threshold that I already reached, and excess was there. I mean, I exceeded the threshold. So I asked myself, should I work now? Because additional pound, marginal pound I'm earning is now being taxed at a higher rate. So I may not supply my labor. But if that was, in this case, it's the opposite. Tax rate has been reduced, which means the person I will be very happy to work even more next semester at another university, basically, because I'm full-time here, plus I have free time, I go elsewhere to work. Now, I may not next time, because it's just I'm paying more because of high tax, yeah? So I'm taking my labor, I'm offer from the labor market, my offer away, which means there's a shortage of lecturers. Now they will have to search for something else, so capacity will shrink. Yeah, you will see this yourselves as well when you start working. Maybe some of you go to PhD. Yeah? Interested in doing PhD? If you want to do it business school, let me know. In 2-3 years, I will recommend. Because we usually have students wanting to it and contact, and if I'm confident that you are able to do the first year well, which is basically the quantitative part, remaining 3 years are basically up to you how you spend it. Yeah, you will be just doing your research you want, and you get paid, by the way, for doing that. You get a scholarship plus your tuition fees are paid at this university if you do well. So you should get in touch with us if you want to do a PhD in economics or something like that, and then maybe you end up teaching and earning good salary. F, teachers get very good salary here, by the way. I didn't expect it to be too high. It's better in some cases banker's salary than banker's salary. Less stress. Think of it, because you are first year and you'll be thinking about the work, right? So lower interest rates to prevent the exchange rate appreciating. What's this now? This time is not both, though, because usually interest rate is a monetary policy and it's usually targeting demand. Notice this, lower interest rates. Remember what happens when the interest rates are lower? Government is not going to invest. It's the private sector borrowing and investing at low cost. Yeah? And when interest rates are low, exchange rate is low, which means exports will be cheaper. And exports are part of aggregate demand, remember? But of course, side effect, eventually, this investment creates potential output. That's eventually.
Demand side policy.
It's a demand side policy, yeah. Right, so when I came to this country, I wanted to become an accountant or an investment banker. You see this, investment banker. I had high hopes. Okay. So maybe we see here Nobel Prize winners sitting here, some of you, in economics. Read it please now. Number 2. So this is similar to what you will see in numerical questions. But what we wanted, we've done some of this already, so that's why we started with the bottom one. Last question. Because these were essay type questions, and in the essay you have to decide whether monetary policy is better, whether supply side policy is better than the others. Yeah? And the advanced and disadvanced are also in the book if you want to read it. And I have uploaded additional questions with solutions. There you will actually discuss advanced and disadvanced as well.
You know, there's QM plus questions, and you say that
Quizzes,
yeah. If some people do it, then you give a free book. Would you be able to update the book name on QM plus?
Oh, actually, I've already given away these 2 books.
Well, yeah, I can buy them on Amazon as well.
Oh, these are economics, Lipsy, and business economics, Mankiw. If I remember these 2 books. One got business economics, one got the economics book. I think I did announce it, but maybe you missed the time. It was in the lecture, early morning, 1 o'clock lecture, and when I came in, there were students and asking about, and I answered that 2 people want it. Yeah, but if you want, I can send you, I can lend you my books, but if you promise that you return it back from my own library. Okay, let's do this second question. The following table shows the consumption schedule for closed economy, one that does not trade with other countries. So notice this, we don't have exports, we don't have imports here because it says does not trade with other countries. Yeah? Investment is currently 400 billion. Okay, you also have national income and consumption for each national income category. Now, A, assume that the government is currently spending 200 billion. So government is currently spending 200 billion. Okay, and that's G. What is the equilibrium level of national income? Now let's work this out. Here the national income is C plus I plus G. Now, what do we have here? We have I, right? Investment. 400 plus, what else do we have? 200 for sure, plus something else. Huh?
You need to do all of them.
Yeah, so you have to do all of this for C, right? To find out where the national income. So we need to add the C now. We need to find CD, basically, such that eventually we get a Y, which is one of these. Yeah? We need to get Y equal to one of these. Now, what do you think this could be?
Just 501 and then to 600.
600.
No, 1,900.
Find more of the difference of 600.
So this is 600, right? If you add 1,200, this gives us 1,800, which is this category here. Makes sense, guys? Yeah? So Y then is equal to 1,800. All others will not equate to the national income. So it takes trial and error here. Few iterations. 600 plus 200, 800, no, not this. 600 plus 400, 1,000, no. 600 plus 600, 1,200, no. 600 plus 800, 1,400, no. 600 plus 1,000, 1,600, no. And 600 plus 1,200, this is the right one. That's it, you stop here. That's the equilibrium national income. Is this clear, guys? Everyone? All right. Next, B. Assuming that at this level of national income, the government is running a budget deficit of 50 billion. That what must be the level of savings in this economy? Now, this is budget deficit, isn't it? Budget is imbalanced, not balanced. The budget is out of balance, or whatever you call it. So how do we know that? Basically, we need to do this. G is our expenditure. T minus G is our budget, usually gives us where the budget is in balance or not. We would like to have 0 here. That would be budget balancing. So T equals G. But in this case, T minus G is equal to 50. Now, it says budget deficit. So G is 50 billion more than T. Now, what is G? G is equal to? G is equal to 200. So T must be 150 then, right? Then that gives us, are you following me, guys? That gives us this result. Yeah, you know that the G from here is 200. And it also tells us here that government is running budget deficit to 50 billion, so T minus G must be minus 50. So to get this, given that this is 200, this must be 150. 150 minus 200 gives us minus 50. Now we know what T is. Now we should be able to find the savings using the injections equal to withdrawals approach in equilibrium. Yeah? Yeah, can you do it now yourselves if you understood it? Yeah, can you do it? Did you understand it?
Yeah.
You're quiet now. So if this is clear, do this now. Work out for me what the savings is. Here, savings are.
What does T stand for?
Tax. So you're not reading the book. Now, few things here. Maybe a few things were covered in the lecture. That's because I told you that if we don't do much in the lecture, we didn't have time, we usually cover it in the problem sets. Yeah? But they are in the book. They are in the book. Yeah. You just need to sit down and read. Yes, go ahead.
What is the sum? How do you calculate the savings?
Oh, how do you calculate the savings? Yeah, I see. So, what are the withdrawals? Tell me.
The savings and tax.
Savings plus tax plus imports, but imports are zero right now. Do you know why?
Because it's close.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Equals then injections in equilibrium. What are the injections?
600.
No.
Oh, CIP
Exactly. Thank you. C.
plus I.
Sorry. Injections.
Oh, I plus G.
Yeah, that makes sense now. Because we excluded it's only part of demand, not the consumption is actually not injection. Well, kind of. Right? Does it make sense? Because you see, injections, so this is basically J, W, and equilibrium they are equal. In equilibrium they are equal. Now you can work out what the S is. S is basically I plus G minus T, which is 450. Thank you. Done? You see how easy it is.
It is easy when you explain.
Well, that's why we have to do problem sets. That's why. And now with my help, you should be able to understand the chapter even better if you read it.
Hopefully.
What is the government expenditure multiplier? Remember the formula for that?
Change of.
Yeah. K, government multiplier, expenditure multiplier is change in G. Is it? Okay, thank you. So it's change in Y over change in G, exactly. We want to see multiply the effect of change in G on Y, yeah, on income. But now, do we have change in Y? Yes. If I scroll down, you can see that the change in Y is about what, 200? 600 minus 300 is 300, 900 minus 600 is 300, 1200 minus. So we have constant change of 300 basically, yeah? But what we don't have is enough data for G. We only have equilibrium G, which is 200. Right, so in that case, what we have is consumption multiplier. Or we can work out what the marginal propensity of consumption, rather, I should say. And if we know MPC, then we know the rest. What's the MPC?
Marginal propensity to consume.
Yes. What's the formula? Change in Y. Marginal propensity to consume. It's the fraction of income we consume. We spend on consumption, yeah? Guys, quick.
I thought it's J.
Huh? What was it?
No, I.
If you have a
thought-
question, ask me, yeah?
Because I thought it's change in Y divided by change in J. Because like injection.
G, you mean?
J.
J
Injection.
injection.
Oh no, we're not looking at injections here. We're looking at
Oh, no,
expenditure
withdrawal.
multiplier. Yeah, because J has I as well, remember? Investment, private investment. So it's not part of the multiplier, government multiplier. Government multiplier is about G only. Now this formula is in your book. This formula is in your book. And please tell me what the result is here for MPC. Now let's look at the C. We know the change in Y is basically 300 and change in consumption is 200, yeah? It's constant 200. So 2/3. Two-thirds of our income. We consume 2/3 of our income. Now, that's enough for us because we now get K using this formula. Yeah, this is also in your book. Which is 3. Done? What?
K stand?
Hmm?
So instead of using that formula,
K is this. And is another way of expressing it. Make sense?
Is that also 1 minus MPC is also MPCD?
What do you mean MPCD?
1 minus MPC equals to another term. I don't know.
That's
MPW.
MPS, saving, yeah. You either save or consume. Or, she said W? Yes. That's withdrawal. You withdraw it or consume it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But usually, yeah, tax multiplier is a problem here now. Yes, MPW, let's assume it MPW. If it's in the book, yes, keep it that way. Right, next. Is this clear, guys? What's the interpretation of 3?
Basically, that's 3 times.
We achieve 3 times more income by injecting just 200 pounds. Yeah, our income will increase by 600 pounds in this case, 600 billion. If this makes sense to you, let's go on to the tax multiplier. Now, this is not in your exam. So in your exam, I just want to tell you that if it's hard to remember, don't worry. But what it is basically 1 minus k. This is tax multiplier. And 1 minus k is equal to minus 2. Another formula for this, and often is used in other books, is MPC MPS, if I remember this is correct, yeah.
It's MPW in this book. They use withdrawal rather than saving.
Marginal propensity of saving is not MPW though, because W includes the tax as well, remember? And also imports. So this is separate. You should get the same result. Let's test. MPC is, what was it? 2/3? MPS is 1/3. Result is, there's minus here, don't forget. Minus 2, yeah. It needs to be minus because if the taxes go by, if the tax change is, change in taxes is negative 200, for example, yeah, we reduce taxes by that much, then you will have a multiplier effect of 400 because that times the change in tax gives us the multiplied effect on income. Just like your government expenditure multiplier, this multiplier is always multiplied by the change in taxes. If the change in tax is positive, then income goes by. So that's why you need the negative value. Make sense now? Tax multiplier should be negative because negative changes in taxes usually are a good thing because we're reducing taxes, government is reducing taxes, means more money will be in the hands of the market sector. So this causes a positive income rise. Okay, now here this question is a little trickier. Almost time. It says if assume let's do this. I will just clean this up. Yeah, I deleted everything. Right. How do we do it? You see, it doesn't move. How do we? Sorry, say it again.
Use the eraser.
Eraser. Thank you. Draw and
Eraser.
here it is. Good. You see, I have been using this thing but never used properly the eraser before. I think I used the eraser but not properly. Right, so draw, come back. Now, what's the size of deflationary gap? Now, here, if assume the full employment, if there is a full employment that exists, which is 2,400, and we have 1,800 here, the distance between the two is obviously what?
600.
600. Yeah? Difference between what we currently have, which is, this is AD here, aggregate demand. We have a gap of 600 billion income. Now, however, the answer is not this. Here the question is asking, how much do we have to inject in the economy? such that we get a £600 increase in the income. Given that the government multiplier effect is 3, isn't it? If the government expenditure multiplier is 3, we just need to inject 200. That gives us a desired 600. So then aggregate demand moves to this point. Yeah, gap is now covered. So the effect, the gap here is 200. This is the answer. The income goes by 600 if we just inject today £200. And the next question is 200 as well. This should have been rephrased properly. So next question, the answer is 200 here. If you read it, you will understand what it is. Wait a sec. Okay, I'll correct it if there is any problem. I think I'll update this. I'll have to update this. There is something that I need to have a look. I just don't want to speculate right now. But if anything, you will get it in the email. Now, last question, and we need to be quick now because the other group probably is outside. Last question that's very much related to your exam. No, it's a tax multiplier here, isn't it? So it's not related to your exam. Okay. Alternatively, how much would taxes have to be changed, assuming no change in the government? Okay. Instead of injecting 200, by how much in pounds should we reduce the taxes so that the income goes up to 600? Goes up by 600, sorry. What was it?
3.
3, what do you mean? So what was the tax multiplier?
Minus 2.
Tax multiplier. Tell me the tax multiplier.
Minus 2.
Minus 2. So if the tax multiplier is minus 2, we need to multiply it by minus x. That gives us 600. Minus 300. Yes. So we need to lose 300 billion pounds of taxes here. We need to reduce the taxes by 300 billion, or reduce the tax rate such that it becomes 300 minus in the end, in the balance. So this is basically then equal to 300. That's it. That's the answer. Make sense? It will help us reduce the gap. With this question that we have earlier, I need to have a look because that is referring to the 200G, but we may have to change. Now, question 1 is not in the exam, but it's good if you attempt it independently and you get the result answers on the thing. Yes, to the other one as well. And also